Welcome back to the Murder Tapes podcast, season 5, episode 1. I have had such a busy but fun week. I was in Orlando with my mom, and then we flew into Houston because we had to drive to Galveston for a dear friend's birthday, and now I'm finally back in Austin, so things have just been kind of chaotic. I've been trying to get a bunch of content done, get a bunch of orders done because I'm making some stickers for a little pop-up I want to do for the podcast. So aside from that, I hope you all have had a great week, and this episode is on the Yacht murders. Today's episode is sponsored by Fish Audio. I stumbled on this tool called Fish Audio the other day, and I've got to say it's kind of blowing my mind. It's a voice generator, but not like the usual robotic sounding stuff, and they just dropped this 1.6 control beta, and you can make the AI voice breathe, pause, and even laugh, and it actually sounds like a real person reacting. It's honestly the first time I've heard AI voices that actually feel alive. And I've used 11 Labs before, but Fish Audio is on another level with voice cloning. It catches all the little details, and the fact that it's faster, open source friendly, and way cheaper, literally the cheapest on the market. And a big bonus is that it's also uncensored, so do with that what you will. If you're into audio content or just want to mess around with something really cool, definitely check it out. There's a free trial, and it's ridiculously fun to play with. It will be linked in the show notes, and thank you so much to Fish Audio for sponsoring this episode. I'm going to play this audio and see if you can tell who it is that's saying this.
The Murder Tapes podcast by Annalisa is the best true crime podcast I've ever listened to.
In case you didn't catch it, that was supposed to be Drake saying that. But anyways, the website is super fun to play around on, and I actually called my mom and my sister because they wanted me to use a bunch of different celebrity voices saying their names and just little funny things. So definitely check it out, and without further ado, let's get into today's episode. 57-year-old Tom Hawks had a dream. One he didn't just talk about, but spent decades working toward. He was a Vietnam veteran and father of 2 from a previous marriage, and also a former police officer and bodybuilder. Tom, alongside his 47-year-old wife Jackie, envisioned retiring in his 50s and living on a boat, drifting along the Pacific coast in peace and freedom. They both lived in Newport Beach, California, and through years of prudent saving and disciplined investing, the Hawks made that dream come true. They bought a $300,000 55-foot trawler yacht and gave it a name that felt like both a statement and a celebration. They named it Well Deserved. And can I just say that that is the best name for a yacht? If I were to ever acquire a yacht, that's what I'm naming it. For 2 blissful years, Tom and Jackie traveled along the California coastline and down to Mexico, living on their floating home and embracing the freedom they'd earned. But when their son Matt told them he and his wife were expecting a baby, the couple's priorities shifted. They decided to sell the yacht and return to land to be closer to family. And on the morning of November 15th, 2004, Tom and Jackie Hawks took Skylar Deleon and his wife Jennifer Deleon on a test cruise of their yacht, which they were looking to sell. Unbeknownst to the Hawks, Skylar had brought along 2 accomplices: Alonzo McCain, a prison guard, and John Fitzgerald Kennedy, a former convict turned self-proclaimed youth pastor. As the yacht sailed off the Southern California coast, the seemingly innocent excursion took a horrifying turn. Skylar and his associates launched a vicious attack on the unsuspecting couple. The 3 men assaulted and overpowered the Hawks, ultimately forcing Tom to sign over ownership of the yacht. But the terror didn't end there. The attackers bound the couple and, in an act of unspeakable cruelty, threw them overboard alive. Tom and Jackie Hawks drowned in the open sea, and their bodies were never recovered. News of their disappearance stunned the community and soon captured national attention. Family and friends were left struggling to comprehend the brutality of what had occurred. Authorities launched an intense investigation, and Skylar Deleon was quickly identified as a prime suspect. Quote, "Next thing you know is, no one could get a hold of them. For them just to shut off their cell phones and drop off the face of the earth is extremely out of character," their son, Ryan Hawks, recalled in an interview with 2020. When the couple's yacht was found moored in its usual berth in Newport Beach, but without any sign of Tom, Jackie, or their silver Honda CRV, alarms began to sound. Ryan's uncle, Jim Hawks, a retired police officer, immediately noticed that the dinghy used to reach the yacht hadn't been tied properly, and that its motor was still in the water. Quote, "My uncle was 100% positive that my dad didn't leave the boat that way," said Ryan. The last known detail was that the Hawks had gone out for a test sail with the potential buyers. That same week, Jim left a note on the Well-Deserved with his contact information. Not long after, he received a call from a woman named Jennifer Deleon. She claimed that she and her husband Skylar had paid cash for the boat, up front and in full. But something wasn't right. Trisha Schutz, a family friend and financial manager for the couple, found no record of a deposit. Quote, "Tom and Jackie, if they would have sold that boat, they would have deposited that money into their bank account. There was no activity on their account, so we know that something was wrong." Jim Hawks contacted police and filed a missing persons report. Newport Beach Detective Sergeant Dave Byington took the case and quickly discovered something concerning. Skylar Deleon, the man claiming to have purchased the yacht, was a convicted felon on probation. Quote, "I go, geez, okay, well this doesn't sound good right now," Sergeant Dave later recalled. Skylar Deleon had a troubled past. Once a child actor with a brief role on the 1990s TV show Power Rangers, had drifted into criminal behavior and was now married to Jennifer, a hairstylist supporting the family while they lived in a converted garage behind her parents' home. The Deleons didn't fit the profile of wealthy yacht buyers. Police searched the Well-Deserved and found a receipt from Target dated 2 days after the test ride. The items purchased were trash bags, bleach, and Tums. Quote, "If I was going to kill somebody, I'd have my clean kit," Sergeant Dave said, "and it would be bags to get rid of evidence, bleach to wipe down the scene, and maybe if I had a conscience, some Tums to settle my stomach after killing some poor people." The receipt led them to Target surveillance footage. Not of Skylar, though. It was Jennifer's father, Steve Henderson. He claimed the supplies were for cleaning the new boat and that they had been volunteering at a nearby church. Quote, "When I see a family volunteering in a church, I was put at ease a little bit, thinking, okay, this is going to turn out okay. The Hawks are fine," said Sergeant Dave. Jennifer told police, quote, "We're really concerned too." She claimed they'd been trying to contact Tom and Jackie and that their belongings were still on the boat. Quote, "We don't know what to do," she said. Skylar echoed her concern and produced paperwork for the purchase, complete with signatures, fingerprints, and a notary's certification. He admitted to using drug money for the deal, telling police, quote, "I want to go straight with my family. I'm a father now. I have another child on the way, and I want to do the right thing." He claimed the exchange happened in a parking lot near the yacht, where he handed Tom a briefcase full of cash in front of his wife, a notary, their child, and a friend from Mexico, Alonzo McCain. Skylar told Sergeant Dave that Tom asked him if it was all there, and Skylar kind of giggled when he responded, saying, "Yep, it's all there." Then Tom and Jackie drove off in their Honda, and that was the last time they saw them. Still, there were no signs of the couple until a month later when a retired couple in San Miguel, Mexico called authorities. They had seen the Hawks' missing silver Honda CRV parked next to a mobile home. The mobile home's owner said that the car had been gifted to him by Skylar Deleon. Quote, "At that moment, any possibility that the Hawks were still alive died right there, unfortunately," said Sergeant Dave. What followed was a cascade of revelations. The notary, Kathleen Harris, eventually admitted she had never met the Hawks. She had been paid to backdate the documents. Quote, "That was the first domino to fall," said Sergeant Dave. Next came a confession from Alonzo McCain. He told police he had met Skylar while working as a jailer at the Seal Beach jail. Skylar claimed he was a professional hitman and convinced Alonzo that Tom and Jackie Hawks were evil and needed to be killed. On November 15, 2004, Alonzo, Skylar Deleon, and John Kennedy boarded the well-deserved with the Hawks for a sea trial. There, they attacked. Skylar and Kennedy handcuffed Tom, and Alonzo restrained Jackie. Their mouth and eyes were taped, and their wrists were tied. They were dragged to the deepest part of the sea, bound to an anchor. Then, Skylar threw it overboard. Jennifer was not physically on the boat, but her involvement became clear through phone records and other evidence. Quote, "That woman was physically not on the boat during the murders, but she was absolutely on the boat with guidance and spirit," said prosecutor Matt Murphy. Then, a chilling connection emerged: another murder. Skylar had met a man named John Jarvi while serving time in Seal Beach Jail. John was a licensed pilot that was serving 5 months in jail for a counterfeiting conviction. In 2003, John gave him $50,000 for a supposed business venture in Mexico. Skylar took him across the border, and John was later found with his throat slit from ear to ear, and he bled out next to a sagebrush on the side of the road as cars were driving by. Quote, "There never was any deal in Mexico. He took my brother down there, specifically with the role of murdering him," said John's brother. In his youth, John struggled with drug addiction, as shared by his mother, Betty Jarvi. Quote, "Almost all the kids in our cul-de-sac were involved with drugs," she recounted. Following 3 back surgeries, he developed a dependency on pain medication. Throughout his life, John battled intermittent drug abuse. However, he also experienced periods of sobriety and success. He became a pilot, flying small aircraft across the country, and gained popularity as an announcer for the traveling air show, Team America. Later, he found a niche creating custom jewelry. John was sociable and often made friends quickly, a trait his mother noticed sometimes led him to the wrong crowd. Some friends ransacked his condo, while another group entangled him in a counterfeiting operation that resulted in his arrest. Among those he associated with were ex-convict Skylar and his wife Jennifer. Betty Jarvi sensed trouble when her son failed to return from a trip to Mexico. That evening, she was taken aback to find her Anaheim home filled with family, including her other son Jeff and several detectives from Long Beach Police. Quote, "We had quite a gathering. I turned to Jeff and asked, 'How bad is it?' Jeff looked at me and said, 'As bad as it gets,'" she recalled. After John's body was discovered, investigators learned that his van had been parked outside the Long Beach residence where Skylar lived with his wife. Just days after the incident, Skylar brought the van to a tow yard and gave it away. Quote, "I often wonder what his final thoughts were. I think about what he might have been feeling, whether his death was painful, and how long it took for them to end his life. But I will never have those answers," his mom recalled. As the investigation into the Hawks' disappearance deepened, the John Jarvi case finally gained clarity. In 2006, Jennifer Deleon was convicted of the murders of Tom and Jackie Hawks and sentenced to 2 life terms without the possibility of parole. Although she was connected to John's death, that charge was later dismissed at a preliminary hearing. Skylar's own arrogance would ultimately lead to his downfall. After attempting to forge documents to sell the stolen yacht, he was arrested. While in custody, he confessed the murders to an undercover officer, giving prosecutors the evidence they needed to secure convictions. Skylar Deleon went to trial in 2008 for all 3 murders. He was convicted and sentenced to death by lethal injection. However, due to California's moratorium on capital punishment, he remains on death row, where he will spend the rest of his life. His accomplice, John Kennedy, received the same fate. Only Alonzo McCain, who cooperated with authorities and testified against the others, will ever walk free again. He received a 20-year sentence and is expected to be released. Quote, "At the end of the day, they all got what they deserved," Sergeant Dave said. Skylar's mother, Lynette O'Daniel, reaffirmed earlier testimony that her son was molested by his deceased father, John Julius Jacobson Sr., during his childhood. She testified that Skylar grew up in an environment filled with drugs and orgies, and she left his father when Skylar was just 2 years old. The most poignant moment of the day came when Lynette recounted an incident where her child nearly drowned in their family pool. As she recalled the terror of rescuing her son from the water, prosecuting attorney Matt Murphy posed a harrowing question. Quote, "What is it like, ma'am, to witness someone you love drowning?" The courtroom fell silent as he made a striking reference to Skylar's recent murders, asking, quote, "He was not tied to an anchor, correct?" Lynette is the latest witness presented by defense attorney Gary Polson in an effort to highlight Skylar's troubled upbringing to elicit sympathy from the jury and mitigate the possibility of the death penalty for his client. Witnesses, including Skylar's stepmother, Lisa Wilden, and half-sister Stephanie Jacobson, also testified regarding their father's abusive behavior. Lisa recalled that Skylar was frequently beaten by his father for trivial reasons, stating it could be because he got a pimple or didn't have his hair combed right. 21-year-old Stephanie Jacobson described her father as an awful person and noted that while he was abusive to everyone in the family, Skylar bore the brunt of it all, recalling instances where her father even shoved toothpicks under Skylar's fingernails. I'm now going to play audio of Skylar Deleon speaking on his childhood.
When you think about your childhood, what do you think about it?
I hated it. I mean, there's lots of time I wished I was dead. I've hated my childhood.
When Skylar was caught biting his nails, John would stick toothpicks up in between his nails into his finger beds because that would teach him.
Your dad physically abused you, beat you.
Yeah.
And then he had a friend who sexually abused you.
Yes.
So how does that terrible childhood have any relevance to the situation we're in today, where 3 people are murdered at his hands?
You try to explain as best you can who the person is and hopefully get some sympathy from the jury that might impact on whether they vote to impose the death penalty or not.
I think the defense attorney did the best he could, but he didn't have much to work with.
There's only one problem with Skylar's defense. You have to believe him, and he's a proven liar.
He is a pathetic figure in a lot of ways, and he has a hard time telling the truth.
In my 26-year career as a prosecutor, Skylar Deleon is the best liar that I've ever seen. For example, he said he was Marine Corps Force Recon.
To hear Skylar tell it, he was this deadly trained sniper. He was sent to the Middle East where he would take care of business for the government.
He did join the Marines at one point, but even that he wasn't successful at. He left after about a couple of weeks, went AWOL.
You told people you were a sniper.
Oh, yes.
You weren't, but you told people that.
Yes.
Give me a little insight in that. Skylar, why would you do those things?
I don't know. I guess just trying to impress people I was around, I guess.
Skylar seemed happy to talk about his gender surgery, but he didn't want to talk about his murder victims. John Jarvi. Was he a friend of yours?
Acquaintance, I guess. Just somebody I'd met at the jail. I mean, I didn't even really know him that good.
Did you kill him?
I can't go into that.
Skylar Deleon is one of the most haunting figures I've ever interviewed. How he tied these poor people up in an anchor and threw them off the boat while they were still alive. It was just the worst thing I could ever think of. Should we walk away from this program, this interview, knowing only that you cold-bloodedly killed 3 people?
No.
What else should we know?
Personally, I don't think I'm the person that they portrayed 100%. I mean, I think generally good person just with a really bad decision. For the most part, I mean, I'm a nice person. I treat everybody nice.
What do you want people to know about Skylar Deleon?
Get it out there, I guess I'm sorry. One thing, you know, take some things back. That's probably one of the biggest things.
Ryan Hawk, who is the spokesman, of course, for the family, the son, told us that your apology is more about you. You're sorry that you got caught, but you're not really sorry about his family, his parents.
Well, I would say, you know, I'm definitely sorry to his parents. I wish I could take back that time and give him back, you know, his parents, because it's like now I realize what he's lost.
On March 13th, 2008, Skylar Deleon partially severed his penis with a razor blade while incarcerated. After receiving medical treatment, he was returned to jail the next day. In an interview with ABC's 2020, Skylar revealed that the act was an attempt to affirm her desire to transition to a woman. Defense attorneys argue that Skylar's motivation for the murders of the Hawks stemmed from a financial need to support her sex reassignment surgery. In 2019, Skylar's legal gender was officially changed to female, and she is now known as Skylar Preciosa Deleon. This case became a chilling example of how trust can be betrayed in the most sinister of ways. Though the verdicts provided some sense of justice, nothing could truly ease the pain of loss suffered by the Hawks' loved ones. Tom and Jackie are remembered not only for the tragic circumstances of their deaths, but for the kindness, warmth, and joy they brought to those around them. But justice doesn't restore what was lost. Tom and Jackie Hawks worked a lifetime to build their dream. They earned every moment aboard the Well-Deserved, a dream taken from them by strangers in one final horrific voyage. In order to honor Tom, Jackie, and John, I'd like to mention little bits of their life so you can hear more about who they were as people. Tom grew up in California on a farm with his brother, Jim Hawks. They spent their time surfing and sailing, and as mentioned in the beginning of this episode, Tom was in the military and became a probation officer, while his brother became a police officer and then a police chief. Tom would then have 2 kids named Ryan and Matthew Hawks, and after his divorce, he would end up raising them on his own. Here's a clip of his son Ryan speaking about his father.
I met Tom's son Ryan in Newport Beach when we first started doing this story in 2009.
How close were you guys growing up even?
Very close. My parents divorced when I was probably like 5. And he pretty much raised me all the way to adulthood and made me who I am today.
Jackie was known for being such a light in Tom's life. His kids ended up calling her mom, and she would consider them her own. Tom and Jackie were very involved grandparents, and they really wanted to be a part of the baby's life. I couldn't find anything on John Jarvi, but his family did mention that he lived a fun life and, as mentioned earlier, made lots of friends, although some of them were trouble. This case was so hard to read about because the Hawks were finally retired and living their best life when this happened to them. We all hope to eventually relax and spend time with our loved ones one day, and I just feel so heartbroken for their family. As always, all evidence will be linked in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much to Fish Audio for sponsoring this episode. Feel free to follow our Instagram at Murder Tapes Podcast and my personal at Annalisa, and I hope to see you on the next one.